the first priority of people who should get this vaccine are our frontline healthcare workers and elderly Americans, those who are over 65 years of age and who have been proven throughout this entire pandemic are many, many times more likely to die if they get this virus than those who are younger and healthy. Unfortunately, the recommendations that are coming out of the CDC do not reflect what has been established by science.
You tried to add a little honesty and decency and everything that you just described in your last few weeks in Congress. So I want to go through a few of the things that you were really talking about and trying to make happen. Let's talk about the COVID vaccine, because you've been pretty outspoken about how we've really butchered some of what we're doing here in terms of the rollout.
This may shock people, but I really strongly have been pushing our CDC and their advisory committees, as well as our state leadership here in Hawaii, leaders across the country, to make their decisions based on medical science about who should receive this vaccine, what's the priority, given the limited amount of vaccine available, who needs to receive it first. If you look at medical science, you would find that based on all of the trials that have been done, it has been scientifically established that this vaccine is effective in preventing serious health complications from COVID and even death. It has not been scientifically established that this vaccine is effective in stopping this virus from being transmitted from one person to another. So if you look at both of those facts that have been scientifically established, you would draw the conclusion that the first priority of people who should get this vaccine are our frontline healthcare workers and elderly Americans, those who are over 65 years of age and who have been proven throughout this entire pandemic are many, many times more likely to die if they get this virus than those who are younger and healthy. Unfortunately, the recommendations that are coming out of the CDC do not reflect what has been established by science. And this is the warning that I'm calling out.
Right. So what is that?
What they're recommending essentially is they have they're making politically driven decisions that are essentially putting the lives of elderly American seniors at risk, where they're saying, okay, well, yes, frontline healthcare workers are getting it first, as they should right now. But those who are getting it next are people who they deem as essential workers, which is about 87 million Americans. And those who fall under everything from people who are working at the grocery store, people who are manning the cash register at a liquor store, to lawyers, to people working in the media, to people working in transportation, construction, corrections. There's essentially a laundry list of people who they have deemed as essential workers of any age who they're saying should either get the vaccine before our seniors, or who our seniors need to compete with in order to get this vaccine. And this is what it's just mind-boggling, because this is coming from people who claim to be medical experts, but they're not making their decisions based on science. They're instead making politically motivated decisions.
Where do you fall generally on lockdowns and the rest of it? I mean, we're coming up unbelievably on basically almost a year. I mean, it's been about 10 months already of sort of lockdowns, masks, the whole thing. We were told 2 weeks to flatten the curve. And now we're being told, maybe a 100-day federal mask mandate. I'm in California, where everything is locked down. I mean, the main street I live off of, it looks like a ghost town. I mean, it genuinely looks like a ghost town. Do you believe this should have been left to the states? And are you kind of shocked at how it's now 10 months later and we kind of forget where we started from?
I mean, there's no question that this is a major public health issue, given not only how infectious this virus is, but also the recent mutation that we've seen occur in the UK and other places. And now I think Colorado has gotten the first few of an even more infectious version of COVID. So I think that the baseline standard of public health precautions do need to be taken. which, it is. It's wear a mask, protect yourself, protect others, and wash your hands and socially distance. The lack of a national strategy with regards to testing has worsened the situation, where still as we sit here today, it is incredibly difficult to get a test. If you test more frequently and more people, then you have the ability for people to act on that information and take precautions themselves. There's no reason why we shouldn't have these capabilities deployed all across the country. There's no reason why we shouldn't have medical grade masks available to every American, which are actually most effective, versus the cloth masks that so many people are forced to use because they can't get medical masks. And then, the issue with the nonsensical decisions that a lot of state and local leaders are making. For example, in California, I think it's a viral video at this point, where this guy is out paddleboarding in the water by himself and was apprehended by police both in the water and on land. How does that make any sense? We had here locally, there was a decision made for a while, like no one's allowed to go outdoors. No one is allowed to leave your home unless you're going to the doctor or you're going to the grocery store. But we know that people who are able to get out in the sunshine. How's the weather in Hawaii again?
Usually pretty nice?
Sunny. Pretty
okay?
sunny.
Yeah.
Which we know is better for, increasing your immunity. Exercise is good for you. They said, okay, well, we'll let people out, but we'll open up the hikes again. But you can only go by yourself. You can't go with anybody. Okay, so I can't go hiking with my husband.
Right.
We live together. And how safe is it for one person to go out on a hike in the mountains by them? But I mean, it's just, there's so many different examples of really nonsensical decisions that, again, have not been made based on science and how best to help protect our communities and protect people's health and well-being. And then of course, the last I'll mention is how we are all told nationally by these so-called medical experts that gathering in large groups of people creates a great harm and a great risk. But all of a sudden, if there's a mass gathering for a political purpose that these experts agree with, then it's okay and it's fine. And so there's no surprise in my mind why so many people are throwing the BS flag on the field and saying, I don't trust you guys. I don't trust you guys. How can we trust what you are telling us is true and that this will actually help protect our neighbors and friends and community when there's no consistency and these decisions are not being made based on proven medical science?
What do you think, just sort of philosophically, about lockdowns in general? I mean, they haven't been proven to work. California is clearly an example of that. I spent last week in Florida where everything was open and the numbers are actually less and people are out there and they're living their lives. But philosophically, just sort of the amount of people that we've just put out of work, and we know depression is up and alcoholism is up and drug use is up and all of this stuff. It's almost like people are just kind of forgetting what freedom is. Like, you really, within 10 months, you can completely forget it.
Yeah, I think that I don't think that one can say yes lockdowns or no lockdowns as a broad statement. I think that there are certain things that could and should be done in a public health crisis like the one that we are seeing to try to contain a virus like this. But again, those decisions should be made based on the science and what we know will be most effective. I think one of the ineffective things that we've seen occur is how big box retailers, for example, have been allowed to remain completely open and conducting their business as per usual with large numbers of people going in and out every single day. And yet, the small mom and pop shop on the corner has been forced to shut down because they are not essential. Like this, how are you choosing who is essential and non-essential? Who gets to stay open and who gets to close? And frankly, it's been the biggest corporations who have benefited the most, who've been allowed to stay open throughout this pandemic, whereas the small businesses, the restaurants and small shops in our communities have not been allowed to open their doors again, points to politically motivated decisions rather than decisions made in the best interest of the people.
If you're looking for more honest and thoughtful conversations about politics instead of nonstop yelling, check out our politics playlist. And if you want to watch full interviews on a variety of topics, watch our full episode playlist all right over here. And to get notified of all future videos, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.